Well, good morning, everybody. This is Paul Slack. I'm the president of Splash Media U, and I'm really excited to be able to connect with you today and cover one of my very favorite lectures to share, and that's all about campaign management. And so, now you're are ready to start into the social media marketing world, and you've got all this great information and all this great knowledge that you've gained through Splash Media U, and how do I go out there and really start to use this information in a way to actually create value for the companies that I'm working with. What are those things that I need to be doing every single day within the different platforms that make sure that I'm setting this business up for success and that I'm not letting anything fall through the cracks. And that's really what this campaign management lecture is all about. So I'm really excited to get into the nuts and bolts with you today. There are a couple of things I want to talk to you about before I get into that. Just some interesting changes that have gone on in the world, especially over at Google, that are going to impact some of the things you'll be learning in general studies. So I'm going to cover that first, and then we'll get into the meat of today's topic. But let's go ahead and take a look at our learning objectives. Here's what we're hoping to accomplish in the 90 minutes that we have together today. Number one, we're going to teach you how to run a social media marketing kickoff meeting. So once you start, maybe become the social media marketer for the company that you're working with today, or you get hired as a social media marketer and you're ready to launch that social media marketing initiative within that organization, well, you're going to have to get some stakeholders from the organization involved if you're going to be successful. And so you want to have a kickoff meeting to get everybody on board with what you're trying to do and how you're going to measure success. And so we're going to talk you through how to do that today. Then we're going to teach you how to set proper expectations. Everybody, when they hear social media marketing, they probably have a different definition of what success looks like. And so you're going to need to set those expectations for them and get everybody on the right page. Then we'll talk about what does that launch process look like. So once we're ready to get a campaign off the ground, what are those steps we need to take to really get us from having a strategy, having everybody on board, and actually getting us to a place where we've launched our campaign. And then once our campaign's launched, we're going to teach you what do you need to do and what are the tools that we've made available to you here at Splash Media U so that you can effectively manage that campaign. And so I've already introduced myself, but I'm the president of Splash Media U, excited to connect with you, always anxious to connect with students. I'm also the instructor coach for the General Studies course, so if you are a new student with us and you haven't gotten very far within the coursework, very soon you're going to see me engaging with you as you complete your homework assignments, and I'll be giving you feedback on the different homework assignments that you're doing within General Studies. For those of you that are new also, please know that General Studies is one of the meatiest courses that you'll go through. In fact, most of the courses have lessons that are in the time range of 3 to 5 minutes long. I'm a little long-winded, and I'm the primary on-camera instructor as well for General Studies, and there's some in there that are 10, 15, 17 minutes long. So just hang in there, get through General Studies. I'm here to help you. Once you get into the other courses, you'll find that they'll be a little bit easier, but we've got to give you that great foundational information to get you started. So here's how you can reach out to me. You can certainly reach me through the message board inside of Splash Media U, but you can also reach out to me via phone or email. As I mentioned, I love to hear from our students. There's lots of resources for today. I'm going to show every one of them. The one you probably want right now is the workbook. And so you can go over to, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a second, go over and download the workbook. It's actually just a copy of all the slides that I'll be covering today, and you can take notes that way. So why don't I go ahead and do that, because there's a couple of things I wanted to show you today anyways related to some changes over at Google. And so I'm going to just bring up Splash Media U. Now this is going to look slightly different than the Splash Media U that you see, because I'm an administrator, so don't pay attention to this stuff over here on the left. So the first thing I want to do is let me just introduce you to where do you get the resources for the lectures. And so I'm going to go over here to this drop-down box, and I'm going to scroll down to Live Events. And you can see the links to the lectures are right here. Today is Campaign Management. And so right here are all the different resources that I'm going to walk you through today. You don't need to download those for today's lecture. Just know where they are. I'll show each one of them as I go through the material today. But do download this workbook and print that if you want to. And that way you can take notes as I go through the material with you today. You can also watch a replay of this right here after today's live event. So that's how you get to, and that's how you get to all the lectures, and that's where all the resources will be for each of the lectures. Now remember, you have to watch all the lectures, whether you watch them live or an archived version. It doesn't matter to us because there is an exam for each lecture that you'll be required to take, and I'll show you where that exam is real quick. It's right down here at the bottom. So if you want to, you might go to this exam right after we're done today while this information is fresh in your head and get through that exam, because you need to make an 80% or better to pass the exam to ultimately get your master's certification. So that's where you get the workbook. Give you a couple of minutes to get to that. I'm going to run over here and let you know of a very recent change that Google has made. They actually end-of-life several products at the end of last month, and as a result of that, related searches is no longer valid. And if you've gone through the general studies course and you've gotten into the area that talks about key phrase research and the process to do key phrase research, you'll know that the second step in the process is to go and do related searches. And the third step in the process is to actually go to the Google keyword tool. And so the way to get around that now is we're just going to have to go from seed words, which is the first step of the process, skip the second step, which is use Google's related searches tool because it no longer exists, and then just go over right to the Google keyword tool. So I wanted to show you how to do that this morning in case you get stuck as you go through the material. We'll reshoot those classes really soon. I think there's only 1 or 2 classes that are really implicated. So if you'll look here, I've got Google pulled up. I've done a search for Google keyword tool. We want to go to the Google keyword tool. And in the old days, once we got logged in, what we would be cutting and pasting in this box is the information that we were able to pull out of related searches from Google. But since they don't have that product available to us anymore, what we're going to do is just type in those seed words. And so be sure to watch the class on how do you gather seed words if you want to learn how to do that. That's in the General Studies course. But that's primarily by thinking about how would your customer search for your product or service in a site like Google, talking to your sales reps, looking at your competitors' websites, looking at the keywords that they're targeting. That's how you gather seed words. You can still, this is still going to work just fine. So once you have those seed words, I'm going to pretend like I'm a pest control company in Dallas. I know that that's the kind of our standard as you're going through general studies pseudo company, if you will. So I'm just going to type in pest control Dallas and pretend like that's a seed word. And I'm also going to type in you know, termite, see if I can spell it right, termite control Dallas, and maybe MESQUITO Dallas, mosquito control Dallas. And I think I spelled mosquito wrong, but thank goodness for spell check. There we go. Okay, so those are my seed words, and I'm just going to come here and click only show closely related to my search terms. Then I've got to type in this crazy hopefully I'll get it right, CAPTCHA here, and click search. And you can see now I'm ready to just like in the way that we teach it, we now get this information that I can export by clicking the download button. And so when you get to the key phrase analysis homework assignment, skip related searches, put your seed words in this area here, and then just simply download this report. That's what the homework assignment's all about. If you have any questions at all when you get to the key phrase analysis homework assignment, shoot me an email, message me through the school, and give me a call, whatever you want to do, and we'll walk you through that. So that's a brand new change that just started at the beginning of this month. Okay, so back to the presentation now. Hopefully you've had a chance to download your workbook and you're ready to rock and roll. So let me just kind of walk you through what does that overall social media marketing campaign process look like. So the first step in the process is you're going to have this questionnaire that is one of the resources that as you're going through general studies you'll find available as we talk to you about the questionnaire and how to get it filled out and why you need to get it filled out. But the first thing you're going to do when you begin a social media marketing endeavor is to send this questionnaire out to key stakeholders within the organization, C-levels, VPs of marketing, people that are critical to give you some good insights on where the business is trying to go. So that's the first step of the process. The next step of the process is you want to have this kickoff meeting that we're going to talk about today, and that's where you educate the team and you gather some facts that you're going to need to complete the social media business plan that we talk about in general studies. Now, once you've gathered this information from the kickoff meeting, you're ready to complete the social media business plan template. As you'll notice when you download that from General Studies, you'll see that it's about 60% templatized, 40% requires input from you. This is where you really need to put your thinking cap on. At the end of the day, the reason why companies hire social media marketers is they're expecting you to have a skill set that we're going to teach you here at Splash Media U, but they're also going to expect you to be good critical thinkers. And so you're going to gather the facts, and then you're going to start completing this SMBP template, but you're not going to just copy and paste their answers from the questionnaire into the template. That's not going to give you a good social media business plan. You're going to take that data, take what you've learned, apply critical thinking, and then use all of that to complete the 40% of the social media business plan template that requires input from you. And so once you've completed the social media business plan, you'll get approval from that from the stakeholders or your boss or whoever's really managing that process for you. And now once you have that social media business plan in place, you want to go and focus on the content strategy. And so content always happens after you build a strategy. So the social media business plan helps you think through where is a business trying to go, how is social media going to help me get there, how are these individual sites that I've targeted like Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitter, etc., going to help my business get to where they're trying to go. You've got to get all that figured out first. Then you can move into the content strategy, which is, okay, now that I understand who my customer is and what our business does and what our message is and what makes us unique, how do I create content that exemplifies those things or accentuates those things that really make my business shine, but answers those questions that my customers are really trying to get answered in the world of social media or through social media, through search, etc. And that's why we do that as the next step. And that's why key phrase research, as you can see right here, is a critical part of getting your content strategy in place. And that's why I wanted to walk you through some of the changes that Google has even made at the beginning of this month. Then we have to redo our content strategy every quarter. So one thing that's nice about the way that we roll out our methodology here at Splash is you'll go through a strategic planning process on an annual basis, but each quarter you need to go through a new content strategy. So you'll always want to review your social media business plan throughout the year, but you want to do a brand new content strategy every quarter because the world changes, your customers change, your business changes. So once you have that content strategy in place, now we're ready to go and onboard the campaign. So this means, you know, I've got my strategy, I've got everybody on board, we all are in agreement with what winning looks like for the business, we know what sites we're going to target, we know what type of individuals or personas we're wanting to target, we know everything, we got our content strategy in place, and so now let's launch this baby. And so that's what the onboarding process is about. We want to do it in an efficient, effective way, and we want to activate our community in a very methodical way. And so once you go through that activation process, and we teach all of that as you go through Splash Media U and go through the General Studies course, now we're ready to go into the reoccurring management process. You know, how do I get my hands dirty every day to make sure that what I do today is ultimately going to help my business achieve its corporate objectives as far as social media marketing is concerned. And so as it relates to today's topic, we've got a lot to cover because look at all these different areas that we're going to be focusing on in today's lecture. So we're going to talk about the kickoff meeting, the content plan, the checklist, and really those reoccurring things that we need to do on a monthly basis. And so let's jump right into it and cover how we're going to run an effective kickoff meeting. Now, just going back a couple of slides, remember the kickoff meeting occurs after we've completed the questionnaire or you've gotten the questionnaire completed from key stakeholders. You also need the Team Education PowerPoint. It's one of the resources that we've got in this lecture area. I'm going to show it to you in just a moment. And you also want to be prepared. You don't want to walk into this kickoff meeting not knowing more about the social media landscape as it relates to the business that you're working with or working for and your competitors. So go out there and take a look at, you know, if Facebook's going to be one of your targeted platforms, how many Facebook likes do you have, if you have any at all? How many do your competitors have? Those are really good things to know as you come in and really know what you're trying to accomplish while you're there. So what is the purpose? What are we trying to accomplish? Well, number one, running a kickoff meeting is really going to set the stage for your working relationship with all of those stakeholders. if you're a new employee within an organization or you're new to this role, this is your opportunity to really let folks know that you are the expert and that you own this piece of business. I can tell you I've been an employer for many, many years, and I've had hundreds of employees over the years, and the ones that always shine out to me are the ones that look me in the eye and convince me that they own a piece of the business, like a business within the business. And so I feel like it's critical for every successful social media marketer that when you have this kickoff meeting, it is a great opportunity for you to look folks in the eyes within your company and say, I got this. I got this. I own this. I know it. And this is going to be great. Okay, so that's one really key thing you want to accomplish in the kickoff meeting. You also want to educate the team. You also want to gather the information that you're going to need for that social media business plan, as well as the key phrase analysis, as well as the content strategy. And really important, you want to set goals and establish expectations. So here's a sample agenda. When I'm running a kickoff meeting for a client, this is the agenda that I bring to the table. So there's really 4 pieces to it. We're going to review the education, client education PowerPoint. We're going to talk about expectations. We're going to schedule the content plan, and we're going to move to next steps. And that's really what we're all about. Now, in discussing expectations, that's where you're also going to review the questionnaire and make sure that you've got clarity on where they're trying to go as a business. So let's talk about setting expectations. One of the first things that you're going to need to combat or really educate on is this idea of what does winning look like in the world of social media. And you know, you're going to hear us say at Splash Media all the time that it is social media marketing. And when you add the word marketing to the end of anything, we believe that means ultimately we've got to help a business really make their cash register ring. We've got to use the media to ultimately generate new customers, new sales, and to do it in an efficient and effective way. And so you need to be bold in that too. And when you're having this kickoff meeting, let them know that the ultimate goal is, in fact, to create value for the business. However, there are 3 stages that are valuable that are leading us up to that ultimate goal. And those stages are crawling, walking, and running. And I'm going to give you some expectations here, but just know that every business is slightly different. So the crawling stage is really the first 90 days. And so you're not going to be measuring the same things as you go through each of these stages. In the crawling stage, what you're going to be measuring are really things like that are all around actions. For example, did you set up your campaigns in the first 90 days? Did you do that the right way? Are you achieving the activity goals that you wanted to achieve? Now, as we get a little bit farther on in today's lecture, I'm going to walk you through what are those things you need to be doing, things we call frequency of service, and a monthly checklist. And so as you're going through the first 90 days, you need to be reporting to management and reporting to yourself that you are actually achieving these activity goals that you've set for yourself, because you're creating new habits not only for yourself but for the organization. And I would say, as you've probably heard before, that anything you do consistently for 90 days can actually become a habit. And so good goals that are setting you up for success down the road are forming good habits, good behaviors in those first 90 days. And then also, are you activating the campaigns effectively? And we have a whole class inside of general studies. I'm not going to spend time on activating today, but did you launch the social media presence, the sites like your Facebook page, your LinkedIn group, your Twitter account, etc.? And did you activate those according to the activation plan? Those are all good behaviors that you want to be able to report on to management, to yourself. Okay, the next stage is the walking stage. That's the second 90 days, so months 4 through 6. And so you're now launched. You've got some activity going on in the world of social media, and this is where you're going to want to start to see things like engagement. So you'll want to start measuring how often do we get engagement when we post something on Facebook, for example. So if I post a video out there, do I get any shares, likes, or comments? Are people talking to me and asking me questions? Are people retweeting what I'm tweeting out, sending out on Twitter, for example? Are people jumping in on discussions that I'm having within my LinkedIn group? You want to see your community start to grow 10 to 20% during this walking stage. You also want to see your Twitter ratio start to get in alignment. During that first 90 days, as you'll learn as you go through the Twitter course, you're going to be following a lot of people. That's kind of how you kickstart your Twitter account. But eventually you're going to want to see that you're getting followers back in return and that those ratios are getting to more of a balance. And then you can start during the walking stage looking at your traffic flow. Remember, ultimately, if you made it through any of the initial videos in general studies, that we have a blog-centric approach here at Splash, and so we really view social media sites as ponds that we fish in. We go there, we build engagement, we build community, but we are using broadcasting as a method to get people out of those social media sites into your website and your blog. Well, in this walking stage, that's when you really want to start measuring, hey, am I actually getting people out of these social sites? Are they visiting my website? Are they visiting my blog? So that's a key thing that you want to look at in the walking stage. Now, as we move into the next stage, which is the running stage, and this is really month 7 and beyond. Again, every business is slightly different, but this is what we've seen as a good general view of things. That starting in month 7, we should really start being held accountable for achieving a quota and really producing, what a business would typically consider valuable things like lead sales, achieving your cost per lead or cost per acquisition target. Now, the good news is I have a whole nother lecture that's going to walk you through how do you put social media on a quota, and so we'll teach you how to do that at another time. But today, just understand that in the beginning, you're going to be setting expectations that are going to help people kind of think through that process. That, we are going to ultimately move the needle for this business, but just bear with me. There's this 6-month process that we need to go through, and we're going to measure some key performance indicators as we walk through or go through the crawling stage and the walking stage that are going to be indicating that we're heading in the right direction. Another thing that you want to set expectation on is that these stakeholders that are in your kickoff meeting are actually going to be investing time during the first 90 days, and it's going to be more time during that first 90 days than later on. So during the first 90 days, they're going to help you. They're going to be giving you information that you need to really build your content strategy, everything else. But you don't want to set the expectation that this is what it's going to be like forever. Learn from my own personal mistakes, because I've gone in and been so excited about launching a social media campaign for a business in the past that I'm constantly touching these stakeholders and getting information and getting feedback during those 90 days as I'm learning the business and those first 90 days and building their strategy and all that, that on the other side of the table, these stakeholders are going, oh my gosh, I never knew it was going to be that much work. And so save yourself the heartache by letting them know early during the kickoff meeting, hey, I'm going to need a lot of your input now, but just know that 90 days from now, I'm going to need very little of your input. Basically, we'll be managing by exception at that point, and I'll just be getting your feedback on certain things, but not a lot of things. Okay, so as we think about these kickoff meeting best practices, here's some things just to remember. Smile. Smiling eludes confidence. Let them know that you care and that you're concerned. Be prepared to roll with the punches. My guess is if you've got C-levels in your kickoff meeting, you're going to have big egos in your kickoff meeting, and they're going to have their own agendas, and you just need to be flexible. And you need to really understand the social media business plan template, because part of what you're trying to do in this input meeting or kickoff meeting is to get input. And so you're going to want to get information that you can take notes on that you'll be able to apply to that social media business plan template. And you need to listen, okay? Listen a lot. And I'm going to give you some things that you can do to help just get into practice in just a moment. In fact, this bullet here really drives that point home. As you're listening, you're going to have the ability to do this bullet, which is to paraphrase back the information that you've heard. And that is so critical for a couple of reasons. One, you're communicating to these stakeholders that, yeah, I've been listening, but two, you're communicating, I got it, I understand it. Three, it's really helping solidify the information in your own brain. You want to use critical thinking, and so part of your job is to help them connect the dots between where they're trying to go as a business and social media. And so you're going to know more about social media in the room than anybody else. And so try to close those gaps by using critical thinking. Be courteous and thank everybody for the time investment that they've made in helping you get this campaign off the ground. And then as soon as you get back to your office, type up all of your notes and organize them as quickly as they can while they're fresh. Do not walk away thinking, oh yeah, I've got all this, it's fresh in my mind, because believe me, it'll start to disappear very quickly. But if you'll go type up those notes right away, then you've got them forever. Okay, so let's go take a look at the team education PowerPoint. I've got that teed up here. Bear with me as I pull it up. This is on the agenda, so you're having this kickoff meeting. You've got the stakeholders there. You're wanting them to get on board with what you're trying to accomplish, and you want to educate them. They have no idea what social media marketing means to you. They've got their own definition, and so the whole purpose of this PowerPoint, which is completely unbranded as you can see, and customizable, use it however you want, use all the slides if you want, delete some of the slides if you want, it's there as a resource for you, is just to get everybody on the same page. And so we've given you a little cheat sheet here. So again, this is the Kickoff Meeting education resource that you'll download from the lecture area that I showed you at the beginning of today's lecture. The first thing you're going to do is just introduce them to what is social media planning for, what are you doing here, what your approach looks like. These are all things that we're going to teach you at Splash Media U. Then you're going to introduce them to the hierarchy of needs. We have a whole lecture on that, or not a lecture, but one of our lessons on that. Walk them through, this is the value chain that you're going to be focused on. It really helps them understand that you get it. We've given you a little cheat sheet script right here of what you can say as it relates to that. Then remember that busy chart that I show in one of the classes on what does internet marketing process look like, and how does social media marketing really play, and the fact that it plays in all of these critical inputs. And so you're going to want to introduce them to that concept. And again, you can see we've given you a great script right here that you could literally read if you want to. Then we're going to have you educate them on how all these things work together, that you've got to develop a strategy before you build your content, before you go into engagement. And that's what this slide is all about. Again, we have a script for you to read from there. Then we have the tactical wheel. You're going to have to explain to them, hey, these are the activities that are universal that we need to do within social media every day. That begins with listening, going to build a community, broadcasting, etc. So you're going to want to let them understand that those are important things. Then you're going to educate them on the blog-centric approach that we have, and that we really view the world as ponds, and that we're going to focus on getting our community to engage with us in our website, in our blog, and that content is really critical for that. That's why we have the content funnel. And again, I'm going through this really fast because we teach you all of these concepts inside of general studies, but we want you to briefly educate your stakeholders on these things as well. And then you move into examples. You want them to see, what does listening look like on Twitter, and go out there and take a screen print of all these potential customers that you could reach out to and connect with just by the way that they're talking. Show them what their Facebook presence might look like, or what their YouTube presence might look like, by going out and finding great examples, and we've given you some good ones here, because you need to give them a vision, especially if you haven't set up their social presence yet. Show them what a good, effective social presence looks like. Hey, this is a very healthy YouTube environment, and this is what we're going to build for you. Here's what a Twitter environment looks like. Here's what a blog environment looks like that's got good calls to action on it. And so those are just examples. And then we have some really great discovery questions. And so these are slides you probably don't want to show, these last two slides, but these are slides that just have good open-ended questions that you can ask while you're going through this material, or while you're reviewing the questionnaire, to get good feedback on who the audience is and what are the needs of the target audience, these personas that you can then work into that social media business plan. So it's a great resource. Be sure to use it as much as you can, and tweak it and make it your own. Okay, so let's move on. We've just talked about, how do we run a kickoff meeting, and how do we educate clients, or not clients, I'm sorry, how do we educate these stakeholders and get them on the same page with us? And so we've kind of moving along here. So we've gotten our questionnaire completed. We had to do that before our kickoff meeting. We've now had our kickoff meeting. We've taken all that good intel. We've built our social media business plan. We've shared it with our stakeholders. They've approved it, and now we need to move into content planning. And if you remember, the last agenda item one of the agenda items rather, on the kickoff meeting agenda is to schedule this content planning meeting. That's really critical, because you don't want to have all this momentum early on, and then a week or two passes, and now you're trying to get this content planning meeting on everybody's calendar, and you lose another week or two, because you'd really like to be doing this content plan session a week or two after your kickoff meeting. So the requirements for the content planning session are the key phrase analysis, okay, and we talked a little bit about some changes in the world of key phrase analysis at the beginning of today's lecture. And then from the Resource Center, you need to download the content brainstorm process, the content plan checklist, the holiday calendar, the topic suggestion worksheet. We've also got those resources. There are multiple places within SMU, but they're in this lecture environment as well. So here's some best practices. Be sure to include in this content planning meeting 3 to 5 subject matter experts. Now here's just a piece of advice. I think the kickoff meeting, you can have, as many, I've been in kickoff meetings where there are 20 stakeholders in the kickoff meeting. I would not advise having a kickoff meeting that big, but having 8 to 10 might be a good thing. Have many fewer folks in your content planning strategy meeting, or you will be chasing your tail the entire time. So get 3 to 5 subject matter experts that really get the products and services that you provide, really get the business, and are very knowledgeable, and kind of get social media marketing. That would be a good help. So the first thing you want to do is review the SMBP, so you've got a good sense of where the business is going, and bring some ideas. So go through the brainstorm process on your own before you even arrive at the meeting, so that you've got something to work from. You can say, here's 10 to 15 topics I came up with on my own. Let the subject matter experts beat up those topics. That's a great starting point. And then at the first content planning session, remember you're going to do one of these every quarter, bring some predetermined responses to questions that you're anticipating folks might ask. Think of it in like almost a frequently asked questions scenario that you can get everybody's input on. So you might say, hey, if somebody asks me this question on Facebook, here's the pat answer that I want to give them. Are you guys cool with that? So that's always very helpful that first time out. That way you can just copy and paste those answers in when you see those types of questions occur, because you'll see a pattern begin where very similar questions are asked over and over again. So you want to be efficient there and be able to do that and respond quickly. Remember, you're the expert. You're facilitating this content planning brainstorm process, and so don't let the meeting get out of hand by remembering that you're the expert. Go to industry websites, especially association websites or industry magazine websites, to get some fresh ideas on topics that are relevant and might be good topics that you want to replicate for your content strategy. And then if you have a very fruitful content planning session, and you get more ideas than you need to produce over the next quarter, just save those for the next quarter. So when you go through the next content planning session, you can go, hey, here's 12 ideas that we thought were good ideas last quarter that we just didn't have time to work on. Which of these are still relevant, which of these are still good? Now, as you move into the brainstorm process, remember, brainstorming means we're not going to judge each other's ideas. We want free flow of ideas. The way I like to do this is literally go to a whiteboard and just start taking everybody's ideas and just writing them down, without giving them any judgment. And then also you need to combat stakeholders judging each other's ideas and topics too, because you want to keep that flow of information as open as possible. And then when you're listening to these different ideas or topics being expressed, think about how you can turn those into stories, instructional how-to information. How can you turn that maybe into a controversial piece or a list or frequently asked questions, things like that. And so that's your critical thinking. They might say, boy, we need to talk about the MP 5200 and how we've just increased the efficiency by 50%. That might be a topic. Well, you need to be thinking about, well, how can I turn that into a story, or how can I turn that into an FAQ? And that's where your critical thinking comes into play. The first thing I like to do when I'm running a kickoff, or not a kickoff meeting, but a content planning brainstorm, is just say, hey, what are some top of mind things? Before we get into any categories of content, what are things that you subject matter experts think are important that we talk to our target audience? You've already got your SMBP there, so you might review, here's our target audience, here's our persona that we're going after, or multiple personas. What do you think they want to hear about? And just kind of let them express those ideas. And once those kind of begin to wane, then you can move on through these other categories of, what's going on in the company, what's going on with our technology or products that we haven't already talked about, what's going on in the regions where we operate. Maybe that's the United States, maybe that's Dallas, Texas, maybe that's the Southwest. How does that relate to our business? what's going on in our industry. So what's our perspective on where our industry is going, or the way the government is dealing with our industry, or the way that our customers are dealing with our industry, or where our industry is in the maturity cycle. How do we deal with those things? Are there things we need to talk about there? What's going on in our customer? What's keeping them awake at night? What are things that the industry is doing that impacts our customer, or our products or services are doing that impact our customer that we want to talk about? What are other things? I kind of think of it in concentric circles. We definitely want to talk about things where we can impact their lives and make their lives better. But what's one thing that's outside of our world that is definitely inside of their world that we can talk about to build more awareness content? And then finally, are there any seasonal things? And this is a big reason why you'll do content planning on a quarterly basis. We're moving into the spring and summer months. Are there things that we need to be talking about that are related to spring or summer, or 4th of July is around the corner, or Christmas is around the corner? Are there things that we need to be talking about that? Or there's this big trade show that's happening in the next 3 weeks. Are there things we need to be expressing relating, rolling up to that big trade show? So these are topics and ideas on how you want to get that flow of information going on. Now, if you'll do that, you'll find that by the end of an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, you'll completely fill up a whiteboard. And then thank everybody for their time, get them out of the room, and type up all of those notes. And you'll have lots of good information to build your content strategy. Okay, so we've covered questionnaire, kickoff meeting, how to build an SMBP template. Again, we didn't go into that in great detail because that's general studies content. We talked about how to build a content plan. Now let's move into the onboarding process. So what do we do once we've got all this stuff in place and we're ready to launch a campaign? And so we've got a resource for you that we call the Onboarding Checklist, and I have that ready to go here if I can find it. There it is. And so you can download this right from the resource area for this lecture. It is a Word document, so you can edit it as much as you want. Again, you'll see that it's a very common theme here at Splash Media U. Our goal, our desire is to empower you. The 3 E's, you hear me talk about them all the time: equip, empower, and enable you. And so we're going to give you tools that are easy for you to adapt into your own life, into the world of your business, so that you can make it effective for you. But this is a onboarding process that we use on the agency side of our business to make sure that no stone is left unturned and that nothing falls through the cracks. And so let me just quickly walk you through it. So we've got, the content planning meeting. Oops, so let me back up here. So here's the internal planning, the things you need to do right when you get started. So you need to send out that questionnaire. You need to get it back. You need to review the questionnaire. You want to create some listening activities right away. I'm not going to go through each one of these bullets. I just want you to see what the gist of it is. You want to run that kickoff meeting, kind of walk you through that, but here's the key milestones for running a good kickoff meeting. Here's the things you should do after a kickoff meeting, like completing the SMBP, sending out the SMBP to stakeholders, and then send the stakeholders a recap email from the meeting, next steps, etc. Here's the major things you need to do in a content plan meeting. We just kind of talked about that. Here's what you do after a content planning meeting. You want to send out the final content plan a couple of days later and get approval on that. Be sure you get approval on all these types of things. And I like using email, but however you want to get approval, because people are going to forget, okay? So when you go and post a tweet 3 or 4 months from now that's tied to your content plan, that's tied to your social media business plan, and you get that call from the CEO that goes, "Why in the world did you tweet about X?" You can say, "Hey, it's on the content plan. We talked about it. And I'm tweeting about X because this is an awareness tweet. We're trying to build awareness, and this is why we did that. Remember?" And the CEO will go, "Oh, yeah, great. And by the way, here's the email where my boss approved the content plan, or that you approved the content plan." It's just a good CYA type activity. Once you've gotten through all of that, now you're ready to go and set up Facebook. And so, again, you're going to go through the Facebook course, but these are some key Facebook setup steps, some major milestones you're going to want to go through. Same with Twitter, same with YouTube. Here's your blog. These are the major steps for your blog, major steps for LinkedIn. Again, you can download this and go through it on your own. And then you'll notice for account management, the last item, it says, begin the 6-step activation process from the SMBP as soon as social media sites are up. So that's kind of the last onboarding step, and we teach that 6-step activation process in General Studies. So we have a great video on that to walk you through how to do that. It's also in your template, the SMBP template. It's the last page of the template, so you can communicate to your stakeholders what that looks like, that activation process. Okay, so that's the onboarding checklist. And now we're ready to move into the reoccurring activities, and what are those things that we're going to be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And so we've given you some good tools to help manage that, and I'll show you the tools in a moment. But let me just introduce you to this concept that we call frequency of service. Now, frequency of service just means be thoughtful about the things that you're going to do on a regular basis. So you don't want to just go into social media marketing with all this information and education that we're going to give you and just assume that you're going to remember what you should be doing daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, etc. But in advance decide, hey, this is how often I'm going to post on Facebook. This is how often I'm going to cross-promote my social media profiles in the different social media environments. That way you've got a plan. You know, failing to plan is planning to fail. You've heard that before, and we're big proponents of that. And so I'm going to walk you through what we think are important things to do as it relates to frequency of service, and then I'm going to show you a great resource that we've made available to you, and then you can obviously figure this out on your own. And so what are the things you should be doing on a daily basis? Well, certainly you need to be listening every single day. You need to be monitoring your Facebook wall, Twitter mentions, and LinkedIn group discussions for sure. On a weekly basis, you need to be posting some stuff, right? So you need to be putting some posts out on Facebook, and you need to figure out how often is that. Every single business day? Is it every day of the week? Is it twice a day? At a minimum, we think you need to be doing 4 times a week, but at a maximum, probably no more than 7 to 10 times a week on Facebook. How often are you going to tweet? You know, again, it depends on what your goals are. I personally tweet anywhere from 5 to 10 times a day. But a business can tweet as little as once or twice a day. So you need to decide what's the right frequency for yourself. How often are you going to post inside your LinkedIn group? Is that every time you do a blog? Are you going to post once as you're promoting your blog post? Are you going to also have another just open-ended question type discussion in LinkedIn? But have a strategy there. And then commenting in other environments. How often am I going to do that? I'm going to do that once a week. And I'm going to do that in other areas. You'll notice LinkedIn Answers down here. I'm actually going to update the slide as of today. LinkedIn Answers no longer exists. So when you're commenting in LinkedIn, you're going to be commenting in other communities, other groups that you're not a part of. What do we do on a monthly basis? Well, for sure, you're going to be producing blog content. So maybe that's twice a month, maybe that's 4 times a month, maybe that's once a month. Really, it's up to you to decide what your frequency is there. You're going to be promoting those blog articles in the different social channels. One of the biggest ways you're going to get community or get traffic out of social sites is by promoting your blog content so that they'll click on those links and land on your blog. You're going to build an action plan on a monthly basis. And we've got great videos on how to set up and complete your action plan, but I'm going to show it to you today. And then you need to prepare your monthly report. So each month you need to be doing a report that shows to yourself, so to educate yourself, are we achieving the goals and objectives for where we are? So if we're in the crawling stage, did we achieve those activity goals that we had in mind? If we're in the running stage, are we achieving our cost per acquisition, cost per lead goals? Are we achieving our lead forecast or sales forecast? You need to be doing that on a monthly basis so that you know, so that you can manage by exception. You also need to be doing a monthly report and giving it to your stakeholders, whether that's the CEO of the company or your direct supervisor. They're going to want to know how you're doing. And I've always found it's much better for you to volunteer that information than to wait for them to ask you for that information. So what are you going to do on a quarterly basis? Well, you're going to update your key phrase analysis because you're going to need that to update your content plan. You're also going to review your social media business plan template, or social media business plan rather, to make sure that you are remembering those target audience that you're going after, that you understand or remember where the business is going, that you can get reconfirmation from stakeholders that the business is still moving in that direction. Because guess what? Sometimes businesses change course, and you need to know when they're changing course. And sometimes management is not really good at letting people know that they've changed course. So it's good for you to ask once a quarter, hey, are we still heading to St. Louis, or maybe now we're heading to, Seattle. I don't know, but whatever the case is, you need to review that and get new buy off that you are heading in the right direction. So let's take a look at the checklist, and I'm going to walk you through the checklist here. I think I've got it up. That is not the checklist. I think I actually... Oh, there it is right there. Okay. So here's the checklist, and you can just write the month here. You've got your frequency of service figured out. So we just kind of talked through frequency of service, and this is where you, in advance, kind of think through all the things that you want to discuss, or to what your activities are going to be on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And then you've got your actual monthly things that you want to accomplish. And I've got slides for these. I just wanted to show you. So on Facebook, how many times are you going to promote your blogs? How many Facebook notes are you going to do? How many awareness posts are you going to do? How many promotional posts are you going to do? Similar types of activities in Twitter. Similar activities in LinkedIn. Similar activities for your blog and for YouTube. And so you can see it's a real simple report, but the idea is being intentional is really how you get to good intentional results. And so you don't want to wing this stuff. You want to think about it in advance, because as you get into, and this is a whole nother lecture, but as you get into the refinement stage, well, what do we do when we don't get the results? We're in that running stage and we're not getting the results that we hope that we would. You can go back to this report and say, well, maybe we need to increase our posts on Facebook, or maybe we need to promote our blog more often, or maybe we need to do more cross promotion because we're killing it on Facebook, but we're not doing a great job on Twitter. So maybe we need to be talking about Twitter more on Facebook. It gives you the ability to manage by exception when you get into that refinement stage, if you know exactly what your plan of action is and you stick to it as much as you possibly can. Okay, let me close that. So this is, again, just kind of a rehash of what we just looked at. So we're going to, and I just wanted it to be there in your workbook, but you've got awareness posts. You need to think through, how often am I going to put a post out there that's going to be designed to build my awareness? And in the world of Facebook, you need to be putting something out there that is useful and beneficial for your target audience, that may not be necessarily selling your product or service, that's going to have a very high likelihood of having it shared or commenting on, so that you've got a better chance that it's going to show up in their friends feed. Promotional content, make sure you're adhering to the 90-10 rule, and that you're asking for the business, or you're promoting some kind of a special offer. And again, if you're a B2C company, that's going to look entirely different than if you're a B2B company. How often do you want to curate content, which is bringing in other people's information and sharing it with your target audience? And how often are you going to cross-promote those other social profiles? From a blog perspective, how are we going to promote our blog? And this is kind of a rule of thumb here. You want to do it once on your wall. We're not fans of promoting a new article, a blog article, more than one time on your Facebook wall. You can try different things, but this is what we recommend. Doing a Facebook note as well as another way to promote your blog. Give something away, random acts of kindness. Maybe reward your audience for achieving a certain number of likes, or somebody really providing a lot of good feedback on a thread of a discussion that you started, or a post that you started. Going to other brand pages and posting and being part of their discussion is another good way to build awareness. Twitter, you're going to see very similar things. So, how often are you going to do awareness posts, and how often are you going to do promotional posts, and how often are you going to curate content and cross-promote? Now, one thing that I do want to point out on Twitter is you can promote your blog a lot more frequently on Twitter than you can on Facebook. And so you might want to promote that blog 4 or 5 times at different times of day with different key phrases and different hashtags. But think about really what your plan is there. How many people do you plan to follow on a monthly basis to help build your community? LinkedIn, what's your plan on LinkedIn? How often are you going to promote your blog in your group and other groups? And how many discussions are you planning on starting in your group and other groups? How many times are you planning on commenting on other people's discussions? Work this stuff out in advance. For your blog, how many times are you going to blog? Is it once a week? Is it twice a month? Is it once a month? What is that cadence that's good for your business? And then how often are you going to publish videos on YouTube? And how often are you going to comment on other videos inside of YouTube? Figure all that stuff out in advance. And then we get to the dreaded, I say dreaded kind of tongue-in-cheek action plan, because it's a very detailed plan. We've got videos that will walk you through inside of the General Studies course to give you more detail. But this is where once a month you've got your frequency of service, you've got your goals, you've got your social media business plan, so you know where the business is trying to go. But how are you going to create a kind of a mini campaign for every single month of the year that takes all that information that we've just discussed and made sure that you're tying it to something that's ultimately going to move the needle for your business? And so I know this is really hard to see, but this gives you an opportunity once a month to think about what's an objective that we're trying to accomplish as a business, what's a platform that I can try to accomplish that objective in, what's the audience that I want to try to accomplish that objective with, what's the tactic that will help me achieve that objective. You know, give away a $100 gift card for every 100 likes, for example. What's my desired outcome? I'm hoping that I'll grow my traffic or followers by some percent or some amount. And then when do I want to have that complete by the end of the month or something like that? So this is just a great opportunity, and I think at the end of every month or towards the end of every month, you want to go through this exercise, because it's really going to give you the ability to connect the dots between everything that we're teaching you here at Splash Media U and really coming up with a plan of attack for the next 30 days. Plus, it makes you look really good to your boss when you show them, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. And it also gives you great intel in that refinement stage, which we'll talk about in another lecture, on learning, okay, I did this one thing and it worked great. Well, I need to do more of that. Or I did this other thing and it really fell on its face. I need to do less of that. Or maybe I need to investigate why it didn't work the way that I hoped that it would. Okay, so we've kind of completed all of these different steps of the overall, social media marketing campaign process. We've talked about the questionnaire and when you send that questionnaire out, which is right when you begin a new endeavor. So you get that out to your stakeholders, get them filling out that questionnaire. You receive that questionnaire back. You schedule your kickoff meeting. You run that kickoff meeting to get everybody educated, and on the same page with what social media marketing really looks like. You walk them through the stages of measurement and how ultimately you are going to be able to move the needle for them, but you've got to get through crawling, walking before you can get to running. You build your social media business plan out with critical thinking and all this great intel that you've gathered from these stakeholders. You get the key stakeholders to approve it. Then you move into that content strategy once you've built that key phrase analysis and get some really good topics that you want to post out there in social media, either as a blog post or a tweet or a Facebook post or a discussion in LinkedIn or a video. But you figure all that stuff out. And again, we've got classes on all that, lessons on all that. Then you go and you launch your campaign. You go through the onboarding checklist, so you make sure you don't let anything fall through the cracks. And now it kind of walks you through, how do you manage that campaign? How do you stay on top of everything so that you are constantly moving that campaign in the right direction? And then the next lecture we're going to talk about, well, now that you've kind of completed a cycle of this, how do we take that information and really refine it and align it to cost per lead or cost per acquisition goals by putting social media on a quota? And when should we put social media on a quota? And how do we use all that information to spiral our campaign in the right direction? But that's the next lecture. And so as we're wrapping up here today, I just want to move into a Q&A process. And while I've been pushing the PowerPoint slides, I haven't been monitoring the chat board. So I'm going to run over here and see if there are any questions that have popped up as I've been going through. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them now, and I'll answer them. I'm going to stay here on camera for a minute or two more, just in case there are some questions that come out for that you'd like me to answer for the entire group. If I don't get any questions that pop up, then I'm going to go ahead and stop the video portion, but I'll stay on chat for another 10 or 15 minutes. And then, of course, you can always reach out to me via phone or through the message board at Splash Media U, or send me an email. And so really, if you've got any questions at all, whether it's questions about Splash Media U in general, general studies in general, social media marketing in general, today's content in general, I'm here to answer those questions for you. Just let me know, and I will get them answered. I'm just looking here. I'm not seeing any questions pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video portion of today's lecture. But let me end by just saying thanks for taking your time out to watch today's lecture live. Really hope this was helpful. There will be an archive of this lecture available in the next day or two, so if you want to watch it again, be sure to check back in a couple of days. You'll be able to watch it there. And again, please reach out to your instructor coaches as you're going through the different courses, or to Duncan, the Dean of Students, or myself if you have any questions at all. Our goal is that you have a great experience as you move through our coursework, and that we really set you up for success on the other end of this thing, so you can get out there and be equipped, enabled, and empowered to really have a great career as a social media marketer. So until next time, have a great day.